What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is the return of weekly GCAP, by the way. The only source you'll ever need to catch up on all the gaming news from the last week. Going forward, these episodes will be dropping every single Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. I also wanted to mention that we will not ever be covering every single story from the last week because that would just be impossible to track. Like, every little single thing going on in these episodes would be way too long. But I'll always be sure to hook you guys up with, like, the main stories of the week. Like, the really interesting stuff that you definitely shouldn't be missing out on. Alright, so our first story, Nvidia and Google side with Sony in opposing the Microsoft acquisition of Activision. How long are we going to be hearing about this? How long must this go on for? In their words, they say that Microsoft could gain an unfair advantage in the market for cloud subscription and mobile gaming. Is this some sort of joke? We can knock all of those points off so fast. So when it comes to cloud gaming, well, Google Stadia has a thing, Amazon has a thing, Nvidia GeForce has a thing. They are all perfectly capable of being in competition with Microsoft's cloud. In fact, those services, from my experience, are a lot better than Microsoft's cloud streaming thing, especially GeForce Now. I have no idea what is powering their servers over there, but the streaming experience there, it's almost like playing it natively. It's really good. Now let's move on to subscriptions. This one should be pretty obvious, but Sony has PS Plus Extra and Premium. In fact, that has been doing rather well for Sony. I mean, yes, there was like a headline a couple weeks ago that they were losing some users, but they still have like over 40 million people signed on to it. Not to mention Nintendo also has a service, that being the Nintendo Switch Online service. They have like SNES games over there, Nintendo 64 games and all of that. I just hate how they try to word it like Microsoft would have like some sort of monopoly on these branches of the gaming market when that would just not be the case. And the mobile market, that's self-explanatory. Like, sure, they would have King and that's Candy Crush and all, but like Genshin Impact, Tower of Fantasy, those are mobile games not owned by Activision that are most likely just as, if not more profitable than whatever is under the King branch of mobile games, so I think things would be just fine. Mobile gaming market is so huge, so even bringing that topic into the discussion is just, it doesn't even make any sense. This whole acquisition thing has just gotten out of hand at this point. I'm kind of tired of keeping track of it. I'm ready to just kind of kick back and watch it go through and let that be that. I don't know why there's so much pushback against it. I'm 99.95% sure this will go through. There's still like that 0.05% chance that it might not, but I'm pretty sure this is going to go through just fine. Well, I can't really say just fine because there's been a number of hurdles already, but you know what I mean. Our second story for the day, Callisto Protocol underperforms, quote unquote, by selling 2 million copies. What is with these publishers and setting such unrealistic standards? It's like they look at the sales for like Minecraft and GTA and go like, oh yeah, our sales should be looking like that. I swear, these companies are so greedy. If they're not selling like 500 million copies, they're just never satisfied. I don't understand what their expectations were. I mean, 2 million copies, there is some AA indie developers that would kill to get numbers like that, but I mean, it also doesn't help when you find out that the budget for this game was $160 million. Now, granted, this game is a looker. It looks amazing. In terms of feel, I can't really speak on that. I had to play it on an Xbox One. And if you know anything about the performance for last-gen consoles, even on an Xbox One X, which was like the most powerful system from the last generation, you're still getting a sub-30 FPS experience, running at like 900p. It's not very good. But anyway, from the gameplay I've watched, it looks like it would probably feel okay if you're running a RTX 4090 and along with like DDR5 RAM and the latest generation of i9 processor. So, I mean, to an extent, I can understand a high budget, but 160 million, oh my gosh, that's just, that's a lot for this game, man. Are games really just that expensive nowadays, or are they just really bad at managing their budget? Regardless, I just kind of thought this was a funny story. Underperforming 2 million copies? Are you kidding me? Our third story, and yes, I'm trying to get through these as fast as possible because we have a lot to talk about today. It's been quite a busy week in gaming. But anyway, our third story, the Stadia controller lives on. Even though the Stadia died after just a few years of being on the market. Did it even last a few years? Yeah, I guess it was out for at least like, what, 2 years? The only good thing that came out of Stadia was the controller and the technology behind it, because, I mean, the technology for Stadia is gonna live on. It's just that the name itself, Stadia, is dying, so at least we got the technology from it, at least we got the controller from it, and that will be living on. It'll be usable via Bluetooth. I believe they sent out an update for it already. You'll be able to use it with like your Android phone and PC and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. The controller for it, from what I saw, personally, I never got to hold one, but from what I saw, it looked like it was pretty comfortable and would work pretty well for just about any game. So yeah, if you have a Stadia controller, at least you still have a use for it. And Google also released the credits for Stadia. Basically, everybody that was responsible for working on it, they put the credits up online, and I think that's kind of cool. It's just like a nice way to close out the story of Stadia. I definitely recommend going to look that up and go through the credits because, you know, it's pretty cool that they showed that kind of appreciation. Story number 4, Valve got hit with the biggest leak in their history. These leaks contain all of these source files for Portal, Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Multiplayer, and Team Fortress 2. Do I need to explain why this is such a big deal? The leaker goes by the name of Wanderer Leaker, and to quote him, he said, "I don't care anymore. I also did my toying around with it for a few years. Did not upload because I was threatened every time. A real shame. I have no legal binding to these files. Not anymore. I have held on to these since 2016. He's been holding on to these for 7 years. But these 61 gigabytes worth of files, and listen, 61 gigabytes for games this old, that's a lot. This was back before Warzone was taking up the entirety of your 1 terabyte hard drive, okay? We're talking Portal, Counter-Strike. These fit on DVD discs for the Xbox 360. And I mean, heck, even if you go to digitally download like Portal off of Steam, I'm sure it wouldn't be more than a couple gigabytes at most. But anyways, these 61 gigabytes worth of files included assets, code, basically everything that makes the game what it is, because again, this was the entirety of the source files. This also means that everything contained in those files, not just what was released, but also the unreleased stuff that went unused, just because anytime that, if you're familiar with gaming and how coding works, essentially anything that gets cut, it's pretty common for there to be at least a few scraps left behind in whatever code makes it out into like the final retail versions of the game, just because sometimes going through and cleaning up every little bit of unused code gets to be a bit too much. So there's usually at least a few remnants in there of what went unreleased or cut. So you already know people went digging through it like crazy, and unfortunately, I'm sorry everybody, but there was no mention of Half-Life 3. I know, I'm crying right alongside you. I never even got to fully complete Half-Life 2, but I do have a mighty amount of love and nostalgia for Half-Life 1, so I'm right there with you. I'm pretty sad about that one. There were some other cool findings in there, though, you know, like unused maps, weapons, other stuff like that. So if you want to read up more on it, I suggest doing some Google searching or going to watch some other YouTube videos. Those people would definitely be much more knowledgeable about it, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not too knowledgeable about all of these games, so I recommend going to check out other sites and videos and stuff like that if you want more in-depth looks at these things. Story number 5, Doug Bowser visits Japan. Usually this would be nothing to note really, especially considering Nintendo's HQ is located in Japan, so it only makes sense that he would visit there at least, you know, once in a blue moon, especially to discuss business stuff given his position in the company. But it's just a little strange that he felt the need to post it to Twitter with a picture of Mario holding a sign saying "Welcome to Japan." I'm not saying anything, but all I'm saying is we'll have to keep our eyes on this one to see if there's any rumors or leaks or anything that comes from this. I still have my fingers crossed that we'll see a Switch 2 before the year 2030. Most likely, this is just like a generic business meeting to discuss business strategy and marketing plans for the upcoming fiscal year, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there's at least some sort of rumor or leak for some kind of hardware or software coming out of this, whether it be new games, new strategies, new models of Switches, a new Switch entirely, their next system, whatever it be. I'll obviously let you guys know as soon as we know anything. Into the next story, Fire Emblem Engage, it leaked because it's a Switch game. And every Switch game seems to get leaked. I still think it's hilarious that a multi-billion-dollar company can release such a popular system that can be broken with a paperclip. But yeah, given the fact that it's a Switch game, of course it leaked online. That's really it. That's all I wanted to say for this one. I mean, the reviews are good for it. It's got an 82 on Metacritic right now, so I mean, that's pretty good. Personally, I'm honestly a really big Fire Emblem fan. I loved the ones on the DS. Unfortunately, I do not have a Nintendo Switch, but as soon as I buy one, this will definitely be one of the games that I get first. This next one is less of a story and just more of a fun update for you guys. There is now a 2-hour trial for Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 if you have the PS Plus Premium subscription. Unfortunately, I'm still on PS4 and I will not be able to utilize this. I mean, otherwise I would have already bought Last of Us Part 1 when it first dropped, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I'd recommend checking it out given the show just dropped, so whether you're new to the game or whether you want a refresher before watching the show or if you want to compare the show to the game, I definitely recommend checking it out. The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 are some of my favorite games of all time. Like, they are in my top 5. I love those games to death. The story, the characters, everything. For me, these games are just 10 out of 10s. I love them to death. Story 8. This one should shock absolutely nobody. Mr. Matty Plays, which by the way, if you haven't heard of him before, or if you don't watch his videos, I highly recommend checking him out. I love watching his videos anytime that they drop. He has his main channel, Mr. Matty Plays, but he also has another channel called Retro Rebound, which I actually watch that one more usually. He covers like older nostalgic games over there, and I absolutely love that channel, so definitely go check him out if you have not before. But he had somebody from the inside tell him that there's a chance that Starfield will end up getting bumped out of the first half of the year, given the fact that the game never got an official date. I'll just read the quote directly. He said, Starfield is getting a possible bump out of the first half because it's currently undated. Still coming this summer, but possibly delayed out of the first half. He also says that this is coming from a source that he knows he can trust, so I definitely trust it, and, you know, Mr. Matty Plays, he has no reason to lie or spread any kind of misinformation, and he definitely seems like the kind of guy that would be extra cautious of, like, what kind of news he's spreading around, so I trust this one. So this leads me to believe we'll probably be seeing this game in, what, maybe August, September, because I believe Redfall is slated for early summer, and I don't think they would drop Starfield right after Redfall. I mean, Starfield would absolutely destroy Redfall, even if it came out afterwards, so I'm assuming this one's gonna be like an August, September, later in the summer type of release, because then it would still be in that window without them, you know, directly butting heads against themselves with their own release. Story number 9. This one's also short and sweet, but an image of Suicide Squad leaked, and yeah, there's battle passes, currencies. I'm holding back so much rage as I'm saying this right now. I am honestly infuriated that they would mess up a game this bad. Am I saying the game is going to be complete trash now? No, it could still be a lot of fun, but as soon as I see currencies and battle passes and skins, I'm just like, what are you doing? Because you know it's going to get to a point where it's going to get egregious. It's going to, oh my god, I'm having a mental breakdown just thinking of it. I wanted this game to be good, and again, it could still be good, but you know how it goes. They always say, oh, it's just going to be cosmetic only. Oh, it won't be that egregious. Oh, look, Battlefront 2. Not every game has gone down this deep, dark, scary descent into a microtransaction-filled mess, but a lot of them do. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. I'm still gonna buy the game because I've been really anticipating this one, and obviously this will be the last game that has Kevin Conroy voicing Batman to any capacity, and I really want to get the game just for that, honestly. Like I said, I would be buying the game regardless because I've been really excited for it, and who knows, it may not even be that egregious. It may be, as they say, and just be, you know, cosmetic items or skins or whatever, and it may not actually be a big deal, in which case I'm okay. As long as that stuff doesn't interfere with the gameplay, then I'm okay with it. I have no problem with it if other people would like to spend their money on those items. It's just when those items start to interfere with the gameplay or the way that the content is being released in the game, that's when I start to not like it. So as long as it isn't something like that and it truly is just cosmetics and extra content on top of an already good game, then I'll be okay with it. But if this is like another Gotham Knights where even the core of the game is fundamentally flawed, then that's just really going to be a shame, because again, this is the last DC game that is going to have Kevin Conroy voicing Batman in any capacity. So it feels disrespectful to him in a way, for his final game that he got to be any part of to just be like a microtransaction filled mess. Out of respect for Kevin Conroy, I don't want to talk too much on that, but still, I hope that this game is going to be good. Now, we have 2 more stories, and I wasn't sure which one to save for last, but this one I decided we talk about second to last because it's honestly pretty sad, so I want to hit this one and then end off with a bit of a not funny story, but something that kind of lifts the mood a bit. But this next story is Microsoft has laid off 10,000 employees throughout different branches in the company. These divisions include HoloLens, Microsoft Edge, some of their marketing branches, 343 Industries, which that's the main one that we're going to be talking about here, and Bethesda. You know, I bet all of the developers that are under Activision right now are probably seeing these headlines and are shivering in fear, and I would be too. Could you imagine if Microsoft acquires Activision and they end up laying off like 10,000 Activision employees? Like, no. If there was any time to start laying off employees like this, oh gosh, this was not the time. This is not helping their case. Again, even with this, I think things will still be fine. Oh god. The timing truly couldn't have been worse. The main one I want to talk about is 343 Industries, because the fact that these layoffs happened in the first place is of course very sad. I'm not exactly sure what the reasonings for these layoffs were, whether it was budget or maybe some massive conspiracy inside Microsoft. I tried looking into it, but I couldn't find much as to specific details as to why all these layoffs happened at the exact same time. But the main one I want to address is 343 Industries. It is common knowledge that 343 is understaffed, you know, with the new change in management, that's been throwing things off even more. And now they're laying off all these employees. Do they want Halo to die? Do they want one of their only good remaining exclusive IPs to just die? Because it seems like they're actively trying to kill it. Now, you may hear me getting a little heated right now, and that is because I am heated. I have grown up loving Halo. I mainly grew up on like Halo 2 and 3. Those were some of my favorite games of all time, and they still are. And seeing them mismanage and destroy Halo like this absolutely crushes me. And as I said, it's common knowledge that 343 has already been understaffed and struggling as is. Why would they continue to lay off employees? This game is barely keeping itself alive as is, and now you're doing this? My heart truly goes out to all the folks that were working day in, day out, trying to save Halo Infinite, and unfortunately, were just laid off. I can't even imagine what that feels like. And that goes for anybody that was a victim of this giant layoff sweep. Whether you were with HoloLens, Microsoft Edge, one of the marketing branches, 343, or Bethesda, my heart goes out to all of you. I can't even imagine what that feels like. Sending prayers your way, and I hope you can find some other form of employment soon. This kind of news always makes me sad. Like, it's honestly really tragic. Like I said, I didn't want to end this video off on a sad note, so we have one more story that made me feel pretty good as I was reading it. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to say his name. He is the head at Ubisoft. It's like Gui Mode. I'm just gonna call him G. We're gonna call him G just for the sake of the fact that I don't even know how to say his name. Anyway, a bunch of employees at Ubisoft called him out publicly, and it was great. Basically, to catch anybody up to speed that isn't aware of everything going on at Ubisoft right now, basically, Ubisoft is at the lowest point that they have been in over a decade. Their stocks are down, they've canceled multiple games, some of which weren't even announced. There was a few rumors as to what some of them could have been, like a Splinter Cell VR game. And through all of that, through all the canceled games and projects, the stocks and sales and everything being down, again being at its lowest point that it's been in over a decade, the head of Ubisoft basically just looked at the devs and said, hey, the ball is in your court, man, fix it. Which I don't even need to explain how bad of a take that is. And furthermore, it's pretty petty for him to take absolutely zero responsibility for the current state of the company. But hey, what else would you expect from someone in his position, am I right? It's really sad how little accountability these people in suits take for the financial disasters they find themselves in that only occur due to their poor and misguided management. But anyway, the devs fired back and they said, and I quote, the ball is now in our court. For years it has been in your court. So why did you mishandle the ball so badly so we, the workers, have to fix it for you? Which, look, GG's to them for calling out G like that. That takes guts, and they have my utmost respect for it. But his response to this was, and I quote, I heard your feedback, and I'm sorry this was perceived that way. He went further on to say that he wanted to convey the talent and energy of the company's staff and referred to its production process as a collective journey. Several sources told Kotaku that the apology failed to assuage their concerns about the company's direction, and that the meeting was light on specifics. Needless to say, things are looking a little rough at Ubisoft right now. So rough, in fact, that Ubisoft Paris staff is planning a strike next Friday, the 27th, with a list of demands that they want fulfilled, like 10% higher salaries, improved working conditions, transparency on the evolution of the local and global workforce, and a strong commitment against disguised dismals and a condemnation of abuse managerial policies that push employees to resign. Honestly, again, GG's and utmost respect to them. I love when employees and devs step up and fight back and stand for what they believe in, you know, against the higher ups, because obviously there's a lot of consequences that could come from this, but it always warms my heart to see them standing for what's right. So with that, I wish the best of luck to them, and I hope that the working environment can improve for them soon. It's honestly really sad to see Ubisoft like this. I have a lot of nostalgia for Ubisoft. I grew up on a lot of the games, specifically during the PS2 era, that I still love and play to this day. I could name so many off the top of my head right now. Splinter Cell, Ghost Recon, Brother-in-Arms, Prince of Persia, Batman Vengeance, which Batman Vengeance, if you haven't played that, it's like the best Batman game outside of the Arkham series. It is so good. It's based on the animated series. I cannot recommend that one enough. And then you get other games like Rayman, Beyond Good and Evil, Dukes of Hazzard, like, and those are just a few of the Ubisoft PS2 games that I grew up on. That doesn't even include the ones from like the 360 and PS3 era. Once you go over there, you have like Trials HD, Trials Evolution. I love the Trials games. I still play those a lot to this day, actually. Like, those games are a blast. And you got the obvious ones like Far Cry 3, Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. And yeah, I'm a bit of an old head. AC 1 and 2 are my favorite favorite out of the series. AC4 is right up there though. You know what? Yeah, I'd say AC4 is probably tied with 1 and 2 for me. Also, the severely underrated Naruto Rise of the Ninja. Ubisoft was the ones that published that, and oh, that game was so good. And that's just scratching the surface. There are so many games that they've been behind that I've absolutely loved or have a lot of nostalgia for or grew up on. It's just sad seeing them in the state that they're in, and I hope things get better over there soon. Not only for the sake of the employees, but also just the sake of the company, because at the end of the day, they're behind some really great IPs, and the more great video games we can have, the better. I just hope that, you know, they work on their monetization practices in the future, because as it stands, yeah, every time you see Ubisoft, you can expect XP boosters for a single player game. I'm looking at you, AC Valhalla. But yeah, that's it for me. That's all the stories that I have for you guys this week. Now I want to hear from you guys. Do you guys have any thoughts on anything that happened this week? Whether it be the insane amount of layoffs at Microsoft, the drama at Ubisoft, maybe it's the Valve leak, or the fact that Stadia gets to live on in some kind of way. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear from you guys. But that's it for me. I'll see you guys back here next Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and I'll be doing this every single week going forward. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day and an amazing weekend. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.